So in today's video, we're going to talk about 7 reasons why people do not clear the exam. If they followed these points, clearing any of these ACC exams actually becomes a breeze. So let me get into the first point. Last 10 days studies. Now, if you're you're born and raised in India, most people are actually used to last minute studies, right? School, college, you generally put the most amount of effort in the last few days, rote learn as much as possible because that's how many subjects are tested. And there is a very basic peak, right? You barely study much of the subject. Towards the last few days, you go and absorb everything possible. Commit too much of it in the exam, and then you forget 80-90% of everything after that. Now, ACC or any professional exams are of course not designed like that because the real world doesn't work like that. All of us must have seen videos online in the last 5 years where whether it's a Gary Vaynerchuk or it's any of these social media influencers, they always say that all the knowledge in the world today, in the real world, can be basically found on the internet. So why does the school system promote rote learning? In the same way, these exams, the ACC kind of exams, always ensure that we learn concepts which are then applicable in the real world scenario, how we actually serve clients. But there is no fixed way to do that, which means rote learning will not apply because rote learning might help you with one scenario, with 2 scenarios, right? But conceptual learning will be able to help you apply your knowledge to any scenario. It's more like you're learning a principle rather than a rule, and that difference is the reason that studying at the last minute for professional qualifications do not work. Point number 2, not being aware of the paper pattern. Now, first of all, the entire ACCA all the papers are supposed to be given on a computer now. Since the last couple of years. Long time back, I remember when I used to do the exam, most of it was on paper to write. But now, the first 4 exams are computer-based exams on demand, which means you can literally give it any time in the year. The next 5 papers of skill level are again computer-based at the exam center or at your own house in a proctor remote situation. And professional level is similar to skill. The paper is created in such a way that you can actually pre-decide the best way to answer the exam to give you the highest chance of clearing the exam. So what I mean is, some people are better at subjective. Some people want to finish MCQs and get done with it. Some people in MCQs get stuck on the really tough questions. So when you combine all of this, right, if you understand how the paper pattern works, the marking system works, you've actually sat on the computer and tried it, you'll know how it feels. You'll know that, okay, I'll start with MCQs because that's my strength. When I spend more than 90 seconds on an MCQ and I'm not able to get the answer, I will either just fake it because at least you have 1 in 4 chance of getting it right, or I'll come back to it, I'll flag it. There are these options, obviously, that many of you all might know. Same thing for subjective questions. How fast can you type? Point number 3, appearing for mock exams. People are super lazy, I don't know why. But when we talk about mock, people feel that the tougher part is learning the subject. It's not. It's more the most important and difficult part is giving a mock exam by yourself without any exam prompting, right? Because you're going to give the exam in the final day any which ways. To give a mock exam before that requires basic self-discipline. It could be coming from fear that, oh, I have to be prepared. It could be coming from motivation, or it could simply come from discipline that, okay, I have to give it. I used to give my exams purely out of discipline. I had no option, right? I would give the mock. Now, another lazy person will start reading the questions and say, oh, I know this answer, and move on. That's not how you do it. Even if you know the answer, you still open your laptop, right? The ACCA website has enough of mock simulations. And don't do this once. You'll have to, our suggestion is do it at least thrice. Based on other situations, you might do it once or twice, but you give 3 mocks. By the 3rd one, you already know how you're going to fare in the exam and you will give yourself the highest chance to actually clear in the exam. Point number 4, feedback on answers. Now, you might think that your answers are fine. You might think that, oh, my points are not matching with the points in the answer that I saw. But ACC again is an exam that you don't require rote learning, which means if your answer and the answer in the book is different, doesn't mean you're wrong. It could mean you're wrong, but it could also mean you're right. So how do you figure it out? you need feedback. You need feedback from somebody who's qualified, right? So if you're taking training, that solves most of the problem, right? Because all of our faculties actually land up giving feedback individual students, and it's on you to ensure that you take it. If you're not taking training, you can still through LinkedIn, through we have enough ways to connect to ACCA qualified members. Ask some of them for help. Somebody says yes for sure. You might have to do it every quarter, every attempt, but and for maybe different papers. But find people who will give you genuine feedback and take it into account and apply it, because that might be the difference between passing and failing. Point number 5: not focusing on questions. Having answers written in a haphazard manner, or reading a question and just going through the answer in your mind, is not the same as practicing. Having the knowledge and putting it in paper, as in words, or solving for it. I know most ACCA questions, the subjective ones, require you to not only calculate an answer, but then give suggestions as to what to do with that answer. What our job as people is to make sense of that and then use that to either help clients or ourselves or in any other situation as to how to make a better decision, right? Whether it is to do with profitability, in fact, even if it's not to do with numbers, getting the formula right is not the only thing. So in the exam, ACCA expects you to give answers. The only shortcut I will suggest you guys is when you're practicing questions, right? 4 out of 5 questions, when you're solving at home in practice, you don't need to write the detailed answer. You can write the bullet points, but it has to be typed. It has to be only for practice, and every 1 in 5 questions should be done in whole. And when you come to tests and mocks, it has to be done completely like a real exam. If you do this much also, you'll get the hang of typing, you'll get the hang of putting your knowledge into words, and every question does not have to be perfect. 4 out of 5 can be just done for quick practice, but 1 out of 5 has to be perfect, and every test and mock has to be perfect. Point number 6, not focusing on theory questions. Sort of similar to what I said. Most people love practicing calculations, and that's unfortunately it's the slightly easier part. It's what we are used to learning from since school. It's what we know. We can't answer the rest of the question without knowing how to solve the calculation bit. But do that and move ahead, right? Quickly learn this. If you learn this, don't celebrate. That's not what you're getting. You'll fail if you only know how to solve it. But and when I say theory questions, it could be a full theory question, it could be a combined theory question with a calculation. But in both the theory cases, similar to what I said, people don't practice. They read, they sort of think that they know what the points, and then they move ahead and it's a disaster. So please focus more on questions that require you to type and check if you're right with every point rather than just the calculations. And guys, last point, but before the last point, if this is the first time you're visiting the channel, then please do subscribe. Do leave a like if there's any value that is added through this video, and do let us know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like us to make a video on. The last point number 7, is selective studies. We have a concept, again, I don't know if it's an Indian concept or not, but most people prefer skipping things which are not tested in the past exams. They prefer skipping difficult parts, or they feel that, if I have to get a 50 on 100, that's a 50%, right? If I study 75% of the subject or the curriculum, I'll clear. It doesn't work like that. Most of you should know that by now. But the highest chance of passing is ensuring you cover the entire syllabus and attempt 100% of the paper, even if you don't know every answer. Attempting it in time and ensuring that you've at least tried 100% of the paper, 100% of the syllabus, gives you the highest chance to clear. So with all of these points, guys, I hope that if any of you have had an unfortunate incident with these exams, I hope this helps. If you're getting into it, then please take all these points into account. You all will really be happy that it gets you through the exam, and you'll realize it only later. So trust in the process. We know what we are talking about since so many years. I hope it helps, adds value, and I'll see you all in the next video.